and Danielle was telling me, and I apparently I missed this in the article, that when the shooter incident went out, they issued an APB for a black man. It's like, oh, geez. It's this guy's running across the White House lawn. Oh, don't shoot at him. He's not a black guy. Yeah, I realize it's glib and it's exaggerating for effect, but increasingly we live in a country where if a police officer says, "Show me your driver's license," and you turn to get it and you're black, you get shot. But if you're not a black guy, in this case, I believe he was Hispanic. If you're not a black guy and you jump the White House fence and make it into the White House, well, they'll tackle you. On the other hand, all levity aside, and I don't think this is particularly funny, but in a more serious vein, what this might demonstrate is how much more professional the Secret Service is than the Ferguson Police Department. It's not just, hey, something's going on, open fire. Because that's, increasingly in police departments all over the United States. What is that? Ah, bang, 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 bang. Oh, it's his wallet. Yeah, okay. So what do we make of this? What do we do with this? I frankly think, on the one hand, this may well be a tempest in a teapot. On the other hand, when I talked with Abraham Bolton on this show, and we should probably go back to that program and pull out some of the clips and play them for you. I can't do it now. Maybe we can do it over the next 24 hours. But one of the things that he pointed out was that there was disdain for President Kennedy among several members of his Secret Service detail because he was a Democrat, because he was a liberal. And I mean, this was before Rush Limbaugh was on the air, right? These were probably guys who were in the John Birch Society, the old Daddy Fred Koch's organization. It's now been replaced by, well, it's not been replaced. It's still around. Now his sons are running Americans for Prosperity and all these other right-wing groups. But there was, Abraham Bolton was the first black Secret Service agent assigned to a presidential detail. John Kennedy met him. He was, I forget what city. I wanted to say Dallas or Chicago, but in any case, yeah, Chicago. Was it Chicago? He was in Chicago, and Abraham Bolton had been given the assignment of guarding the men's room. He was an African-American Secret Service agent, a relatively rare thing at the time. And he was guarding the men's room, and Jack Kennedy came down to use the bathroom, struck up a conversation with him, really liked him, and said, "Come with me." And suddenly Abraham Bolton is part of, and this was in 1961, is part of the presidential security detail. And he's hanging out in the White House with the other Secret Service guys, and they're sitting around getting sloshed and making jokes about Jack Kennedy and not being particularly respectful. And Bolton was horrified by the whole thing, and he was one of these goody two-shoe types, and I mean that both in the pejorative sense and in the congratulatory sense. He was one of these people with a judger, not a perceiver, as psychology would, as Carl Jung would have identified it. One of these people who sees everything in black and white. It's a good or is it bad? And what he saw was the Secret Service not doing their job and being drunk on the job. And so he went to his supervisor and he ratted him out. And his supervisor came down and read them the riot act, and so they made his life hell. They made his life absolute living hell for 6 months or so. And finally, and he complained about that. And so they shipped him back to Chicago, said, "Sorry, Charlie, you're no longer on the presidential detail because the other guys on the detail don't like you." So they shipped him back to Chicago. And while he was in Chicago, he was part of the Secret Service detail that discovered that in late October, early November of 1963, there was a plot to assassinate Jack Kennedy in a motorcade with a guy who was going to take the fall for the plot, who was a member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, and had been down to Mexico City to try to get a visa to go to Cuba and was tied to the mob. And Abraham Bolden goes to the Secret Service with this information after the assassination of Kennedy, saying, you know, the damn near identical thing just about happened in Chicago just 6 weeks ago, or whatever it was. You know, so in the very, very recent past, they canceled when they learned about this. They canceled the Chicago motorcade. They went on with one in Tampa, where there was another attempt to assassinate Jack Kennedy from a high building with a rifle. And there was a patsy there, and he had been a member of a Fair Play. He had started a Fair Play for Cuba committee, same time Oswald did, same time the guy up in Chicago did. Had gone down to Mexico City to try to get his visa into Cuba. These guys, all three of them, thought that they were going to get into Cuba and take credit for assassinating Castro. Viva la revolution, right? So anyhow, Abraham Bolden reports this, and they were so horrified. I mean, this is the whole Warren Commission stuff was going on, that they busted him on trumped-up charges and threw him in jail. It's incredible.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
He's been largely exonerated, but he still has this felony conviction on his record, and he's now in his 70s. He's a good guy. So if you go to the hidden history of the JFK assassination.com, you can find it.